I think the best thing about me might also be the way I've messed up my life the most. I believe I am an exceptionally good romantic partner, and I would like to discuss what that entails. It is challenging to talk about because it feels socially unacceptable to take credit for merely performing the typical responsibilities that all partners should assume. However, the subreddit, offmachist, appears to be a space designed for sharing thoughts that are not typically deemed appropriate. Common wisdom suggests that there is someone out there for everyone. Yet, there are some who make exceptions for, say, abusive narcissists. It is a nice sentiment that no one is perfect. The key is whether they are perfect for you. It seems clear to me that, alongside the unique characteristics, such as varying interests and quirks, a shared sense of humor, chemistry, etc., that create a strong connection between two individuals, there are also certain qualities that are generally beneficial for relationships. These qualities, along with the actions that stem from them, do not appear to be present in equal measures among everyone. Consider attributes such as generosity, empathy, open-mindedness, and curiosity, honesty, willingness to compromise, self-awareness, recognizing when you are wrong, and knowing how to apologize, consistency in demonstrating affection in the ways your partner prefers, being charitable in interpreting your partner's actions, seeing your partner for who they truly are, without projecting your own image onto them, positive or negative, taking a proactive approach to addressing issues in the relationship, willingness to forgive, being supportive, maintaining a sense of unity with your partner, ensuring you are always on the same team rather than adversaries. It is a false dichotomy to assume that individuals are either kind people or terrible ones, and that all decent individuals possess all of the aforementioned qualities. I believe it is more accurate to understand that these qualities exist on a spectrum. Each of these attributes has an opposite, for example, selfishness versus generosity, being a taker as opposed to being a giver, etc. You have the abusive individuals clustered at one extreme, a majority of average people exhibiting varying degrees of generally positive qualities, and then some exceptional individuals who exhibit these traits at a much higher frequency than the average. I believe that I fall into that exceptional category. I do not see myself as perfect. I acknowledge my flaws, and I am sure I possess even more traits of which I am unaware. Nevertheless, I feel confident that I align solidly on the positive end of all these spectrums. I readily admit that my self-perception could be biased, yet it seems validated by those I interact with, including those with whom I have had challenging relationships. Some of these qualities come naturally to me. I have never been inclined toward anger or raised my voice during conflicts. I have always been curious and view our collective purpose in the world as being to support others. Many of these qualities I have diligently cultivated through therapy, personal development, reading books on effective communication, mentoring a diverse array of individuals, and being in 2 long-term relationships over the course of 22 years. Even if you accept the idea that there are outstanding partners characterized by consistently displaying the positive traits listed above, and that I am one of them, I still do not believe this entitles me to an unusually positive and healthy relationship with another equally exceptional partner. However, I hope it offers me a better chance at achieving that. Instead, it appears that these traits have played a significant role in why my 2 relationships, one lasting 15 years, and the other 7 years, were often unhappy and lasted longer than most would deem advisable. My 2 ex-partners could not have been more different outside of the fact that both were wonderfully kind, delightful, and intelligent. Yet, their temperaments, relationship styles, experiences, desires, ambitions, tastes, etc. were wildly dissimilar. Regardless, both relationships followed a similar trajectory, and the common factor is me. They began positively, with my partners displaying a strong sense of independence and confidence. Perhaps this external demeanor did not reflect their true feelings, but it was what I noticed, appreciated, and found appealing. As life challenges mounted in both relationships, I would invest energy into maintaining the relationship. I was happy to do so. I loved them and wanted to support them. I have been described as having strong, Ted Lasso, energy, and it was easy for me to see how much they struggled, both within our relationship and externally. I believed I could keep things afloat through patience, forgiveness, and kindness. It felt natural for me to bear the emotional labor and cognitive load of managing our lives. However, over time, the dynamic shifted into unhealthy dependence and insecurity. The more support flowed in one direction, the unhappier both of us became. It appeared that there was a fear of not meeting the love and generosity I was offering. Where I hoped that feeling supported would empower them to do their best within the relationship, they often retreated rather than risk failing. This anxious avoidance, as described in attachment theory, led to a self-fulfilling prophecy of not feeling adequate. I did my best to convey my own sadness when they would make commitments, such as maintaining open communication, attempting therapy, etc., and then fail to follow through, while still showering them with love and compassion for their struggles. I do not know if I ever communicated it in a way they could internalize, but I wanted them to understand that they did not have to be as exceptional as I am. I merely needed them to be good enough for me. In both situations, they acknowledged that my feelings of dissatisfaction regarding their contributions to the relationship were justified. I persisted for as long as I could. I spent years trying to help them become the individuals they expressed a desire to be, until the accumulated hurt felt overwhelming, and I decided to end the relationships. Ted Lasso was unable to make his marriage work either, despite showcasing such exceptional levels of the positive traits I previously mentioned. That always seemed the most realistic element of the show for me. With both of my ex-partners, we ended up living together for some time after the breakup. We maintained an amicable relationship and still loved each other, despite recognizing that we were not happy together and had intertwined lives to disentangle. During that period with my first partner, she expressed, "I'm sorry that I never deserved you," which devastated me. I have largely made peace with it, but I believe I will always wonder if I could have done something differently to prevent her from feeling that way. She also said, "Be careful who you date next. I think you can make it work with anyone." I think she truly understood me and was correct. I exerted significant effort to make the second relationship successful. During the post-breakup process of untangling with the second partner, her notable comment was, "How am I supposed to date a regular guy after you?" Now, I find myself single. I am attempting to look forward instead of dwelling on the past, but it is challenging to confront thoughts like, if I had not set such high standards, perhaps they would not have been so defensive and avoidant. Or if I had not been so patient and forgiving, we would have ended things sooner, allowing me to move on and gain more dating experience in search of a better match. This feeling is one of the main things I want to express, grieving the potential paths my romantic life could have taken. I am single, I am 39 years old, and I have no idea how to date. I went out with two individuals after my 15-year relationship, which began when I was a high school sophomore with a crush on a junior, and the second person became my 7-year partner. Some say that is an impressive success rate, while others recognize that it means I am quite inexperienced. I genuinely believe I am a catch. I acknowledge the history I have shared, but I think I have processed it with remarkably little emotional baggage. Also, as mentioned somewhat boastfully at the beginning of this lengthy post, I believe I possess many of the essential qualities that contribute to good partnership. In addition to that, I have a fulfilling job at a nonprofit organization where I get to travel the world, doing work that I believe positively impacts many people. I am fit and 6 feet tall. I maintain a nice home just outside Manhattan where I enjoy cooking and keeping things organized. I dance West Coast swing and create cosplay props. I am incredibly enthusiastic about my interests, but my favorite thing is to be inspired by someone else's enthusiasm, which often leads me to become passionate about whatever my partner enjoys. I am devoted to my family and friends and willing to invest in nurturing relationships. My family is currently experiencing a challenging time, and I am writing this partly to alleviate tension while striving to support them as best as I can, and to be a caring uncle, brother, and son. This situation has left me feeling a peculiar sense of loneliness. As much as I yearn to have someone my person to share this difficult time with, the absence of immediate support is not what causes my heartache. What truly hurts is the thought that there is someone out there for me, and that she might also be navigating a difficult journey, and I am not there to support her. Yet. So, that is another thought I want to express. I wish to openly acknowledge that I believe I am quite remarkable and that I am a hopeful romantic seeking someone who can meet me at my level. I do not know how to find her, but I am clear about what I desire. She is also extraordinary in the ways that matter, so we can admire and respect one another, uplifting each other. Story 2. My 25M girlfriend, 26F, only loves me when I don't love her. My girlfriend exhibits love and affection only when I cease to express my own feelings. I usually withdraw my affection after experiencing repeated signs of rejection and frustration. When I begin to show love and affection again, it appears as though she becomes emotionally unavailable, ceasing her romantic gestures towards me. Conversely, when I stop my affection, she suddenly becomes loving and affectionate, akin to how she was at the beginning of our relationship. The initial part of this message reflects my personal experience. A more detailed account of our relationship follows, separated by a line. This situation began approximately 2 years into our relationship. I first observed a change in April 2023, but I truly sensed its depth in June 2023, which coincided with about 9 months after we moved in together, and roughly a month before I completed a 9-month technology boot camp. Since that time, I have found myself trapped in a cycle where my level of giving determines what I receive in return. When I consistently show affection, she tends to withdraw. She does not initiate intimacy, engage in conversation, or even acknowledge my presence. Instead, she seems preoccupied with her phone and less engaged overall. However, when I pull back, she suddenly resumes the affection she initially showed, even attempting to tease me or offering oral pleasure. In interactions where I express love, intimacy, or sexual advances, it often feels like I am bothering her. My attempts are met with annoyance or the response, "Wait, I need to do something quickly." In the past, even when she was busy, she would display interest. Nowadays, even if she agrees to engage, it feels as if she is merely going through the motions. This pattern does not occur every time, but even during her more receptive moments, I can perceive a distinct lack of enthusiasm. It feels as though she is simply acting out a routine. Initially, these changes were subtle, but they have now become quite pronounced and frequent. When I discussed this with her after graduating from my boot camp, she claimed this had become the norm, suggesting I was only noticing it because I had completed my studies and was more attuned to our home life. She indicated this behavior had persisted for the last 9 months and mentioned being accustomed to spending less time together while assuring me that she still loves me and that everything is fine. After discussing my feelings post-graduation, she mentioned that things had changed since I began my boot camp, asserting that she had adjusted to less time together and that her behavior was not due to distance, but rather a new standard for us. She expressed feeling more comfortable, not relying on me as much since we had moved in together. Despite my awareness of the shift in June, she insisted that it had been that way throughout my boot camp, attributing my lack of awareness to my focus on school and work. She expressed optimism that now that I have more time, things would soon return to normal. I communicated to her that I understood her perspective, and it made sense, even though I recalled moments of closeness. Nevertheless, with 70 hours of my week devoted to class and work, I recognize that my attentiveness may have diminished. However, this state has not remained constant. To be fair, I would estimate that we have experienced a total of 4 months over the past 4 years during which I felt she was truly engaged in our relationship. That accounts for merely 4 months out of a total of 20. I no longer feel secure in our relationship. It seems that I am either giving love only to be met with rejection or withdrawing in hopes of garnering her attention. This situation is immensely frustrating. I should not have to emotionally retreat to receive affection. It makes me question whether I am merely a source of comfort for her anxiety. At times, I feel more like her caretaker, attending to her needs, like fetching water when she is on the couch, rather than being her boyfriend. Although I am happy to assist her, I desire to feel loved in return. We have addressed these concerns multiple times over the past couple of years. There have been periods when I have surrendered, and times when she has appeared to make changes, yet for several months now, the situation has remained unchanged. When we discuss it, she is reassuring, professing her love for me and insisting that she never intended for me to feel this way. However, she often becomes defensive, listing the various ways in which she does show love, providing actual examples. Yet, those examples typically involve actions she takes after I have begun to withdraw. This leads to confusion about the timelines, resulting in us deciding to reconnect, only for that connection to fizzle out once again. She claims to be trying, but it often feels as if she is merely completing a task rather than genuinely seeking to connect with me as an individual. Initially, when we started discussing these issues, she made changes for a few weeks, but then reverted to her old patterns. Now, she seems to make an effort for only a few hours before everything returns to the previous norm. I feel as though I am becoming overly needy by continuously requesting the love she claims to have for me, and I worry that my attempts to communicate my feelings are pushing her away even more. It seems as if the passion has faded for her, yet she does not acknowledge this shift. She frequently brings up the topic of marriage, and when I ask if her feelings remain unchanged, she affirms that they do. However, all the signs suggest that she has lost interest. She no longer laughs at my jokes, does not seek to connect meaningfully, rarely asks about my life, and keeps her own life more guarded. It all feels strangely disconcerting. Background information for context. I wish to be completely transparent, so let me begin from the beginning. I will share details about our relationship, my shortcomings, my suspicions regarding her waning feelings, and some of her behaviors that contribute to this perception. My girlfriend and I have been together for nearly 4 years. On the surface, we appear solid. Those around us believe we are fortunate to have each other, and our families get along well. In the beginning, we were affectionate, nearly clingy. I tended to be more avoidant, while she leaned towards being anxious, yet we fell for each other quickly and intensely. We took our time, officially becoming exclusive after 2 months and committing to each other after 4. Our intimate life was frequent, nearly constant 3 to 4 times during the week and 3 to 4 times daily on weekends. Over time, this settled into 3 to 5 times per week, which was sufficient for both of us. After around a year and a half, we moved in together. However, I made a significant mistake by starting a coding boot camp on the same day. Suddenly, my schedule shifted to working from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., followed by classes 3 nights a week until 9:30 p.m. It was a dramatic change, but we managed it well. She provided immense support, taking on dinner duties and assuming greater responsibility for household chores. While I helped, she bore the heavier burden. After my boot camp ended, her work responsibilities increased, leading me to take on more of the household chores. A month prior to my boot camp graduation, things began to change. She became increasingly distant, less affectionate, and less dependent on me. Previously, she craved my touch, kisses, and attention. Now, she hardly noticed when I offered it. Initially, I speculated that her withdrawal might be linked to her starting a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SRI, without consulting a psychiatrist. Upon researching, I learned that some individuals can experience emotional detachment if their SRI is misprescribed, which prompted me to suggest she consult a psychiatrist. She obtained the medication through a website named hers rather than after a professional consultation. I urged her to pause taking it until she could speak with a psychiatrist, driven by concern over her drastic shift in behavior. She agreed to seek professional help, yet she never followed through and eventually stopped taking the medication altogether, so I ceased pressing the issue. However, nothing improved after she discontinued the SRI. If you refer to the previous section about our situation, you will note that she mentioned the change in our dynamic during my boot camp, suggesting we merely needed time to return to normal, a normalcy that has yet to manifest. I was inclined to return to our previous state, as I felt I was already adapting, but she has not found her way back to normalcy. Our sexual relationship has been steadily declining since April 2023. I anticipated that intimacy and other aspects of our relationship might decline during my boot camp, but I expected that even during our intimate moments, she would remain enthusiastic. Her enthusiasm had begun to wane months prior to my graduation. I have likely witnessed her express genuine enthusiasm for sex with me roughly 5 times. Such occurrences have become infrequent. While she does experience orgasms and sometimes initiates intimacy, it still feels as if she is merely fulfilling an obligation or going through the motions. She does not exhibit the same affection or emotional connection afterward as she once did. We have been stuck in this same state of limbo for almost 2 years. There have been a few on and off periods when she has been more engaged and affectionate, but I am exhausted from asking for her love. I am weary of having to remind her of my needs. I am tired of having to withdraw emotionally just to feel desired. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for wanting my teenager sister-in-law out of my house? I am not a storyteller, and I apologize for the lengthy expression of my thoughts. This situation dates back to around June or August 2024. I, 23 years old female, my boyfriend, 28 years old male, and our 2 children, 5 years and 9 months, were residing 2,400 miles away from our friends and family. My boyfriend's teenage sister stayed with us for a month during the summer. While she was with us, she presented herself as a helpless and needy teenager, but to some extent, this portrayal was accurate. Her parents are in a difficult situation. Her father is absent and her mother struggles with alcoholism. Over the past few years, she has moved frequently, living with her mother, her sister, friends, and her grandparents. She shared various sob stories about her life, and I believed her. After she left, I discussed with my boyfriend the idea of returning home to provide her with structure and stability during her remaining years of high school. He completely agreed. Before we invited her to stay with us, we were contemplating moving back due to my grandmother's deteriorating health. However, we were uncertain as we did not have much saved and thought we had more time with her. Regardless, we managed to save enough to move ourselves and a significant amount of our belongings back across the country, 2,400 miles, to support her. Now that she has been with us since October, my life has transformed into something rather challenging. I anticipated that there would be difficult moments, but I did not expect it to reach the point where I want her to leave. Some issues we face since taking her in are typical teenage behaviors, such as not wanting to perform the chores we've assigned her, being generally messy, and displaying attitude problems. I feel guilty because we could only secure a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, meaning we converted part of our living room into a space for her. It's not ideal, but she has a room divider, a bed, some drawer shelves for storage, access to an entire hallway closet where I installed a tension rod, drawers, and half of the bathroom counter. I have done my utmost to provide her with what we can and make her feel at home. I want to clarify that we do not hold her to high expectations. She has no household chores that she is solely responsible for. The only 2 things I ask of her are to keep her space tidy and to wipe the counter after she has finished with her hair or makeup. It has been 5 months, and not once has she completed these tasks without prompting. I expected drama regarding boys and friendships, but I did not foresee that she would have 4 different boyfriends and a pregnancy scare within the first 2 months of her living with us. She is currently on birth control, a decision she made herself. I assisted her with the process. I anticipated some teenage angst, but I did not expect her to be so incredibly disrespectful toward me. Numerous minor incidents have occurred that have necessitated lengthy discussions, and some are too inappropriate to even mention here. However, some issues that feel personal involve her using my personal care items, such as razors and loofahs. If we had not been providing these items, I would not have been offended. It was a gentle conversation the first time. She possesses a pack of approximately 12 razors and another pack of 4. There are 5 razors in the shower. I keep one on the opposite side of the shower. It's not just the razors, it's also my makeup, perfume, and other belongings. I have been more than willing to share nearly everything, but there are certain items I am simply uncomfortable sharing, such as mascara. I have sensitive eyes and have never felt comfortable swapping eyeliner or mascara. Another concern is her rudeness toward my son. If she has a difficult day, she can be insufferable. He eagerly greets her at the door, and she has scolded him to leave her alone. My boyfriend confronted her about this behavior, yet it still occurs sporadically. We have spent thousands of dollars in support of her, yet I am learning that she never truly needed our help. She has people sending her money and food, buying her whatever she needs. The only thing she lacks is the stability that comes from being in one place. I understand how crucial that is for a child, which is why I stepped up initially, but this situation is becoming increasingly overwhelming for me. I genuinely do not ask much, especially from her. However, another house rule revolves around basic courtesy. That is what my mother taught us. Essentially, if you take the last of something, please inform the parent or replace it. For example, if she takes the last bottle of water from the fridge, she should replace it. Or another example, if you fill the trash can, take it out. If you make a mess, you clean it up. I am feeling extremely unwell today, after 2 weeks of sick kids. Yet she has emptied the water from the fridge every single time I have filled it today. It's easier to overlook this when I am not sick and exhausted and in need of cold water. Since having my second child, my body has changed significantly. I can no longer hold my bladder for long, so especially in the morning, it's a race to the bathroom. My sister-in-law has a terrible habit of keeping her earbuds in while doing her hair, makeup, or talking on the phone in the bathroom. It was around 5:30 a.m., and I desperately needed to use the restroom. I knocked for 10 minutes while doing a desperate dance. I tried banging on the door and calling her name as my urgency increased. She did not hear me, and I ended up soiling myself. It was humiliating and degrading. This was the first time it escalated to that level, but she has had this issue for the duration of her stay, and there have been too many close calls. I have attempted to leave reminders, cute notes with hearts. One in the bathroom says, "Please do not use my personal care items without asking. I'm happy to share most things, but please ask beforehand." Another on the fridge states, "Please replace the water you take with another." Another in the bathroom specifies that there is a 20-minute time limit for bathroom usage. These notes have had no effect. She continues to use my razors and everything else I've asked her not to touch for the past 5 months. As a result, I have moved all of my bathroom belongings to my bedroom dresser. I feel like a guest in my own home. Her space is in the living room. I do my best to keep the kids quiet on days when she is not in school. I try to let her sleep in a little. I will crack the blinds but usually do not turn on lights until 9 a.m. on weekends. However, she often gets up and turns off the lights while my children are attempting to play. It is incredibly frustrating because I can step away for 1 minute to make coffee and return to find my baby sitting in her pack and play in the dark. That is not acceptable. She does this in the middle of the day as well during the afternoon, evening, or whenever it suits her. She expressed interest in joining the wrestling team at her high school this year, and we paid hundreds of dollars to make that happen. It turns out my uncle is her coach. Sounds great, right? Except for the fact that she skips practice. Let me elaborate. We live 30 minutes away from her school. My boyfriend works an hour away from our home. So dropping her off on the way to his work is not an issue. But some days he finishes earlier than her practices. Consequently, either he or I have to make another trip just to pick her up, typically right around dinner time. Therefore, when she lied about having practice, we ended up burning through a lot of gas supporting her extracurricular activities. A significant issue we are encountering is her attire at home. She is constantly dressed in the most revealing clothes. I am by no means conservative, but I believe in maintaining decorum while sharing a living space with children. More often than not, she lounges in positions that are indecent and quite revealing. My family included her in our holiday celebrations. She received gifts and attended our gatherings. Yet when my aunt, the one whose house she has visited multiple times and who generously gave her numerous gifts, showed up to see her brother, my uncle, her coach, on his birthday, she pretended not to remember her at all. It was both humiliating and heartbreaking. Nonetheless, there are many more incidents and issues that have occurred, making me want to give up entirely. I feel defeated, like a doormat. It seems our entire schedule revolves around her schooling, sports, friendships, and dating. My emotions are conflicting because, on one hand, I recognize that she has faced hardships. On the other hand, many of us have endured difficult experiences, and I never behaved as poorly as she does. I want to spare my older child the confusion that her presence has already caused. I want to focus on my children and our role as their parents. Am I in the wrong for being ready to send her back to her mother? Story 4. No changes can be made without the account holder. A recent incident brought to mind an example of malicious compliance involving a family member. This family member's partner was involved in an accident that resulted in severe injuries. They remained in the intensive care unit for several months and were expected to face permanent disabilities upon returning home. They were reluctant to leave their residence, as it was near the finest hospital in the area and was considered their forever home. Consequently, plans were initiated to renovate the house for improved accessibility. In addition to the renovations, a van equipped for wheelchair access would be necessary, along with several other pieces of medical equipment for home usage. As she managed these preparations, it became evident that significant expenses would be incurred, and it would require time to withdraw funds from long-term savings and retirement accounts. Therefore, she contacted the credit card companies to request an increase in her credit limit. Tragically, before the renovations could be finalized, her partner passed away after nearly 6 months of hospitalization and rehabilitation. Following this loss, attention shifted to making final arrangements. The couple had always practiced frugality and maintained nearly flawless credit. All bills were paid punctually, and although there were balances on some cards due to construction, demolition had already commenced, necessitating ongoing renovations at a slower pace. Funds from long-term savings were now becoming available. The issue arose when one major credit card company refused to cooperate with her. She attempted to access the account but was informed, "Sorry, I need to speak with the account holder." She explained that her partner had passed away and that she wished to pay off the remaining balance on the card. She also mentioned that she was an account holder. The bank insisted that she was not listed on the account, claiming she was merely a cardholder without any rights to the account. The representative further stated that her husband had opened the account without her involvement and simply issued her the card, adding that she just didn't understand how credit cards operated. This assertion was false. The couple had always held joint accounts for this very reason since their marriage. They had engaged in comprehensive estate planning to ensure all their assets were protected in trusts in the event of an unfortunate situation. They had ensured their children would be taken care of and that their partner would have access to all necessary resources. Moreover, she had managed the couple's business for over a decade, adeptly navigating a complex landscape of regulations, insurance billing, and financial obligations. It was certainly unwelcome for her to be treated condescendingly. Unfortunately, the bank remained adamant. They refused to grant her any access to the account, yet strangely chose not to cancel the card after learning of the account holder's death. This exchange of communication persisted for weeks, involving numerous calls to the bank and attempts to escalate the matter to supervisors who could address the account situation. In an ultimate effort to demonstrate to the bank that they were harming their own interests by maintaining this position. "So I am unable to access any aspect of the account, even to make a payment." The bank responded, "That's correct." "So will the account be closed?" The bank replied, "No, only the account holder can do that." Even though the account holder is deceased, the bank reiterated, "Only the account holder, ma'am." "What does that mean for cardholders regarding charging on the account?" The bank explained, "Only the account holder has the authority to deactivate a card or modify the account." "What occurs if a cardholder uses their card?" The bank responded, "They may continue to use the card until the account holder instructs us otherwise." The deceased account holder, "Yes, I cannot assist you further. You must have the account holder on the line to change anything or make a payment." "No, that's fine." She burst into tears immediately after this conversation. However, she resolved to follow the rules as set by the bank. All final expenses, medical bills, and as many construction costs as possible were charged to that credit card. She reached the credit limit and then let the account remain idle until the credit card company began contacting her for payment. "I'm sorry, according to your policy, I am merely a cardholder and not accountable for any balance." "Ma'am, this balance must be settled or it will negatively impact your credit." "It better not. I am not associated with the account. This constitutes an illegal collections call, and I will report it to the Federal Trade Commission and the Attorneys General in both your state and mine. I still have his number on speed dial. You can present your case to the court." She was accustomed to negotiating with medical insurance companies regarding claims for the past decade. They did not want to confront her. Recall how all the assets were secured in trusts. On paper, her partner held no assets that could be subjected to a lien. All cash in their joint checking account had been expended to cover expenses for the preceding months, and withdrawals from long-term savings were transferred to her individual account, rather than the joint account. They had decided to shift all exposed assets shortly after her partner regained consciousness, fearing the worst would happen. Additionally, All income from the business had been redirected to her name for more than 10 years, ensuring she would receive some form of Social Security payment as she aged. Therefore, not only did his estate possess no assets to pursue for recovery, but he also had not reported any income for the previous decade. The bank was left with a fully utilized credit card and no assets within the estate to claim for repayment. Other credit card companies worked collaboratively with her to temporarily raise limits or eliminate spending caps for substantial purchases, all of which were settled without a single late, missed, or partial payment. The bank incurred a significant loss due to their decision to exclude her from the account from the beginning. She had every intention of settling all bills and expenses, never having been one to attempt defrauding or cheating anyone. She afforded the bank every opportunity to accept payment for the outstanding bill. They consistently refused to recognize her as a spouse or executor, but she certainly relished the irony that the only company refusing to acknowledge her partner's passing ultimately became responsible for covering the funeral expenses.